everybody, welcome to the School of Social Value. I am your host, Alan, your professor for the day, and today we're talking about the evildoers in our world, the boogeymen, the people who are hurting us and are against us. And that is, of course, the super elite and wealthy who can care less whether we live or whether we die. All they care about is their own personal interest. And the truth of the matter is, we've seen this firsthand. This shouldn't even be a question in any person's mind, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a progressive, or have any political leaning. We all know the corrupt nature of our political system. We know that the people at the top of that system are extracting wealth from us, and that they are diluting all of us in the thought process of them helping. They're actually barely helping. Every time they go to put a bill out to help the lower classes, to help Main Street, they pack it with advantages that the biggest corporations and the super wealthy are going to get. And it's so ridiculously crazy. It's right in front of our eyes, and it literally already has happened in my lifetime. In 2008, we saw the big banks bailed out along with other companies, and it was ridiculous. While the rest of us were dealing with economic fallout, they actually ended up in many cases a preferred position. They actually had a transfer of wealth that made them even wealthier than they were before that crisis. And it's happening again as we speak. What should have happened in these aid packages was that the rents and mortgages for everyone in the country should have been canceled. Not deferred, not postponed, canceled. Why? The government, being the agent of the people, being representative of the people, should have been doing the bidding of the people, should have been making the lives of all citizens better and stable. And instead of creating that stability, the reality of a depression still exists for us. We could have prevented a depression by canceling rents and mortgages and by giving every person the money they needed to stay afloat until we could reopen the economy. And that actually isn't something that is outside of the norm. Literally, as we have been having discussions for the last 16 months in the political world about whether or not we can afford things like Medicare for all or the Green New Deal, we just printed trillions of dollars in this crisis in order to make a lot of people's lives easier. And that was, of course, just a portion of the funds. The rest of the money from the Fed going to lower the interest rates and to lend out ridiculous amounts of money to big corporations was really a big part of this stimulus as well. And that actually was by design. You see, guys, my fear is that every time there's these crises, the people who are pulling the strings actually know what's going to happen. They knew when the virus was going to spread in this way that it would be the perfect opportunity to take the 11 years of economic gain in the public markets, in the stock markets, and they were looking for a way to get out. And how can you get out until you get out at the top and it crashes and it leaves certain people losing everything? That's what happens. The people who get out first are perfect, and they're the ones who saw it coming, and they're the ones who knew it was going to happen. But more than just the gains from all that was all this money that we're now deploying. It's not going to us. Small amounts of it are going to us. The majority of it is going to businesses that do not need it and going to the rich. Case in point, we, FruitCraft, applied for a loan called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. This was through the SBA. This was the first type of loan that was made available before there was any sort of legislation passed by Congress via the coronavirus crisis. And guess what? We were denied. Why exactly were we denied? Because of my personal credit score. First of all, why is a corporation that does all sorts of business depend on my personal credit score? It makes no sense. I'm a 33-year-old entrepreneur who has no net worth. I've got no assets. I put everything into this business, by the way, to give it all away. That's just my MO. So it's just so we know what page we're on together. But that loan was denied, and who got all those loans? Businesses who, by the way, for the months and months before this, were given literally close to no interest loans. I remember reading an article not too long ago when the rates were being cut by the Fed because they were trying to keep the economic growth happening, even though slowing was on the horizon. You cannot grow things forever. It's unnatural. And so that's where it was looking like it was going to grow. So what does Trump do? Trump says, hey, Fed, cut rates, the interest rates. We need people to keep investing into their businesses. We need to keep this economic system pushing forward. But that cheap money doesn't actually result in the stimulus you think it would. But even with all that cheap money all those corporations had for all those months, they still were able to get this economic injury disaster loan. And what does it do? It gives them a 30-year loan at 3.75% interest that is one of the best loans anyone could ever see ever. It's ridiculous that they, who don't need the funds, got it because their credit score and their credit worthiness is up there. But those of us who have been impacted, who have compromised credit. You know how my credit got compromised? By starting this fucking business. I took out personal credit cards in 2009 because why? The banks wouldn't loan me fucking money then. And guess what? I had to default on those in 2010 because I couldn't get the business off the ground quick enough. Had to sell my car, had to do everything to get this dream that's in my head into reality. And instead of our systems being there to serve people like myself, entrepreneurs who've been working their asses off and who are trying to make the world a better place, all they care about is your credit worthiness. And by the way, these evil people who have created these systems literally created the credit score system to maintain their power. You can pull up a video from like the 1970s where this black and white, video is being shown to educate people about your credit and your credit score. And what was the very first thing that was on the list that would give you a good credit score? Capital. Motherfucking capital, my friends. Can you believe this? Basically, if you wanted to start with a good credit score, all you needed to do is start off wealthy. And then you get cheap loans, you get access to more capital. And if you don't have capital, then you have a bad credit score and you can't get access to capital. You see how that's self-defeating and it's perpetuating the concentration of wealth in our world? It is asinine, it is ridiculous, and it is that type of experience I had in my early days of forming this company that informed why we created a social value enterprise, why we adopted a new mission to change the economy, to change the agreements, so that those who have more than enough aren't the only people who can get loans, have access to capital, and to start business. Of course, enter the School of Social Value's mission to take all of FruitCraft's profits so that we can give it out to people like you to start community-owned businesses so that this disparity between those who can get loans and those who can't no longer exist. So, with a kind of summarizing of this video, in the last video we talked about being a hero by sharing our surplus. In this video, we really highlighted those evildoers who are fucking us over. And in the next video, we're going to have to talk about that path forward. It is obvious that our leaders in our political representation are not going to be able to do hardly anything for us. They're not going to be able to stop this depression that is coming, which means it is on us to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and to make it work. And the only way, my friends, to make it work is if we organize, if we collect, and we use our power to make the difference we need to make. And of course, that power is economic power. Economic. And that is the entire thrust of the School of Social Value. It is to let people know that they've been fooled to think their only outlet is political. Our true power is found in our power as consumers, investors, and laborers. And if we band together, if we take the social value pledge, and if we join the cause of the School of Social Value, then we can finally make the difference we need to make. So stay tuned for that next video. And as always, remember to do good and share with others. Cheers.